It's about time to do a little NFL look ahead as we look at the SleeperWire combination there. Guess who thought of that? As you just saw in that pretty little graphic, we are the Roto Hacker podcast. We are the Roto Hacker podcast. I guess so.
Plural.
We are.
Yeah. And my name is Judah Buddha. I'm here with AJ Herschel, the kid, and it's Jared. Ooh, give a little vibrato.
Nice.
Am I shaking my jowls? I actually don't think I came up with SleeperWire. I think that was you, right?
Was it me?
I don't care.
It might have been me. I don't know.
But today we're going to look at a little news. There isn't too much out there. And we're going to go through some start sit-ems. And we are going to look at the SleeperWire, which is the waiver wire, but looking at some sleepers that we can get off of the waiver wire. Well, guys, have you completed all your drafts?
Nope.
Oh, you got one more?
I'm doing one
In
right
the
now. And
What?
I'm doing one right now, and I got an auto draft.
Oh, you're doing it right now. Oh,
Yeah.
I hope it's snake draft and not an auction.
It is snake draft. Yeah, it's snake
Okay,
draft.
that's not so bad. You can still, you don't have
Yeah.
to pay attention every second. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't.
Are you done with yours, Jen?
I don't know. I guess it'll be a question of whether or not I, decide
Give in
to, like,
to the sickness.
add one more. Yeah. I mean, what is one more at this point? So.
Good question. Well, I'm going to adjust my levels here a little bit. I just got done with one. I got one more tomorrow. We'll see. But the one tomorrow is on ESPN.com or ESPN app, and I can't stand the ESPN app.
Really?
So I'm thinking about just letting it auto draft. But today I had one with somebody I've been doing one every year. It's a group from Georgia, and they so there's two groups from Georgia. They kind of split off into two groups, and so there's a lot of overlap. But it was interesting. It's I'll show you guys. We'll see what you guys think about this draft, because I think you're gonna think this is like not a normal man, I don't know. So I got Cam Newton. So it went. My first pick was.
Can you zoom in at all? Or?
Dalvin Cook was my first pick.
Ooh, 3 wide receivers.
It's a 3 wide receiver league. I got Dalvin Cook, then I got Josh Jacobs, and then I went Galladay and Ertz. Never gone Ertz before.
How many teams in the league? 10 or 12?
12. There's 12.
Okay.
So I don't know how I feel about this. I know I hate Ertz, but I don't know.
I think Ertz is just like, he's one of those players. I mean, he's probably, I don't know if he's being undervalued a little bit. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I mean, he's just, what you're going to get from him.
Yeah. Yes.
I think you do. I mean, I think he's still going to be, Mr. Reliable in Philadelphia. But he's not going to give you, the upside of a Kittle or a Kelsey or a Mark Andrews. There may be a couple other players who end up having, like Tyler Higbee. If Tyler Higbee keeps doing what he did last year, Tyler Higbee could jump him. Or
Higbee's not gonna jump. Well, yeah.
We'll see. But a couple of those other guys could, and then that'll probably sting more, because you're like, well, I took him, but he's safe, and I think there's something to say for that.
That's a good point. And I guess what bothers me about taking him fourth, well, so it's been a while since I've gotten Galladay because typically in the third pick usually goes to, like a Mahomes or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I had to wait till the 10th or 11th round to get. No, actually, I think I got him in the 9th round. Cam Newton, I think he's. I thought, you know what? I believe in Cam Newton. I'm going to go with him, and we'll see how that turns out. I got a little. No, I didn't. I thought about taking Rivers to back him up, but he's going to be on the waiver wire for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I got Damon Harris, put him on the IR. So I mean, it's kind of a normal Judah, except I went Ertz and Dalvin Cook. That's my first pick of Dalvin Cook.
And what pick did you say you had?
I had the 7th pick.
Not
Okay.
bad.
No, I like the team. I think it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not too discouraged, but you just had a draft too. How did you said that you were showing us some crazy numbers. People were going for.
Yeah.
You said that Ezekiel Elliott went for like 90.
Yeah, McCaffrey went for 91, right?
McCaffrey went for 91. Keenan Allen went for 20. When I haven't seen him go for like more than 8 anywhere else. It ended up being, I don't know. I'm not the happiest with that team of mine. I mean, it's, I've got, let me look at it real quick. Like, I mean, it's a good overall team. There's not like, huge weaknesses anywhere, but it's more like, good depth as opposed to like superstars, because the superstars were going for so much.
High, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what interesting.
Yeah. But I got guys like Joe Mixon was my biggest spend. But I got like, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, I got Kyler Murray. So I'm very good at wide receiver and quarterback, just not like elite. And then besides, he could be, yeah. And then Andrews at tight end again. And then like my running back depth is beyond Mixon. It's Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack, Leonard Fournette, Cam Akers. So it's a lot. So if I can get 1 or 2 of those guys to, overperform or something, then I feel pretty good. It just doesn't look like the, greatest team on paper. And as I was looking at it, I saw Leonard Fournette's little orange note thing was lit up, and it said that Buccaneers coach Bruce Arians said that Fournette will have a quote solid role in week 1. So he's already walking back that Rojo's our starter bull crap, So
yeah. We already said saying somebody's our starter means they get the first touch,
Yeah.
Well, we got Ryan in the house. Speaking of Buccaneers, so you can weigh in on that RB battle, Mr. Ryan N. And what about you, AJ Herschel? How is your draft going right now?
It's going okay. I'm okay with this team. I've got Julio, Godwin, Mixon, and Gurley. So I mean, like, that's not bad. And then I've got Deshaun Watson and Melvin Gordon, and my wide receiver depth is crazy. I've got Chark, Ridley, and Devontae Parker. So I'm taking a tight end, and I'm taking Phillip Lindsay on my next 2, and then I'll just get, kicker, defense, and then see what's left. I'm okay with this team, but it is nothing compared to the crazy. I had 2 crazy drafts this past week or something, and partially I bring these in because I want to see Jared's reaction to them. So first of all, Jared, I was in the snake draft in a 12-team league, and I got McCaffrey at 4, which I didn't. Yes.
Who is in this league, and how can
who is drafting for you?
There.
How can I play against these people for money?
See, here's the crazy thing. Elliott went third. Saquon went second. Mahomes went first. First of all, that's that crazy thing.
I bet people are responding to. I saw some article the other day saying like, should Lamar and Mahomes be getting taken in the first round or something like that? I bet that's a reaction to that article.
Well, no, the guy who took Mahomes in the first, I think he's 13.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
he's Wolverine. He's the guy whose name is Wolverine's. His son. I took Ezekiel Elliott right before Herschel because I said I could take looks like I could get C-Mac in the third. Going Ezekiel Elliott, and I'm glad.
I was fine. Hey, that works for me. No complaints here.
I'm down on C-Mac this year.
All right. Just sitting on my 23-point average game right now.
From last year. Too bad you don't get numbers from last year.
That's like a funny fantasy story. Like Mahomes went first, but the one that happened, I'm co-managing a team. Last night we drafted. Craziest thing ever. First off, the dude drafts a quarterback in round 1 that isn't Mahomes and isn't Lamar. It isn't Prescott. He takes Jimmy Garoppolo in round 1.
Too bad he didn't wait for the waiver wire.
So he takes Garoppolo round 1. Then he takes the 49ers defense in round 2.
So we're looking at a 49ers truther.
Right. So, but eventually, like, he gets Carson, he gets Robinson, so he rounds out his team okay. But it's the other guy in our league that I can't believe.
That's not the good guy.
Right.
Weird guy.
He takes Mahomes round 1. Then round 2, he comes back and takes Lamar 1 and 2. To which I'm very surprised with.
It's a 1 QB league?
1 QB? Yeah, it's just normal standard rule set PPR, and then he takes CD Lamb in round 3.
Yeah, the only way I would do that is if it was an auction draft and both were going like crazy low. And even then, like, you know, I would just turn around and try to trade one of them. I mean, I have leagues where I've taken Dak, Kyler, and Deshaun, all 3, because they were going for like $5 a piece in auction drafts. So I mean, you can get all 3 of them for like $15, as opposed to spending 30, 35 for Mahomes or Lamar. And then I would go trade at least one of them, and I'm fine with having 2 of them. You know, I don't really.
Who'd you get in a trade though?
I would have to go back and look, but it was a pretty good deal. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
typically I find it hard to trade quarterbacks.
That's well, most of them, yeah. But like if you take 3 of them, then there's going to be some teams with some lesser quarterbacks in there. So I'll have to look while
you're looking. Ryan N says Fournette's going to come in and do what Rojo is weak at, and that is being awesome. I added that last part. Okay, and he also says very satisfied and love the Josh Rosen pickup as well. So that helps us segue into the news. Let's go ahead and hit, unless you guys, we're waiting on. Did you find it, Jared?
No, go right ahead. I can talk about it later or something.
Time for news.
News in the NFL today.
We got. There wasn't very much out there.
Well, there's one thing tonight that broke. That's big news.
Why don't you tell us about it? I don't know if I've even seen it.
Von Miller went down and is probably done for the season.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, he looks like he tore a tendon, and also they're not sure if Chubb's going to be ready for week 1. So Derrick Henry may just start the season just, mauling people in Denver.
Oh man.
Wow, that is interesting.
Yeah, that's a tough one for the Broncos.
I don't know. So Von Miller's MRI is over. The results indicate season-ending tendon injury.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
That is crazy.
I don't know though. How much of that defense? So without him, it's going to obviously not be the best defense, but they had one of the strengths of the Denver defense is that they have depth.
Yeah, but I mean, Von Miller's not like a guy that
he's irreplaceable.
Replace. Yeah, and the tough thing for him last year was they lost Bradley Chubb, and you wonder what that defense could do with the two of those. The two of them on each end. So last year they didn't really get to find out, and then this year went in thinking, okay, maybe this year we do, and then it's not going to happen again.
So Bradley Chubb is injured too, right?
No, I think he's back.
He's back?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's what I saw, but I just glanced at this. It's not that he's re-injured anything or hurt anything. I think it's just him working his way back from that injury. And what I saw that kind of accompanied the Von Miller story was that they weren't sure he would be ready for week 1, but that may not, I don't know if that's true or not.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that means that you could see a Big Henry first week, and that will be his last really good week. So anyways, what is your guys' response to the loss of one of the best? He was a pass rusher, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he did everything.
He kind of did. Yeah, he did it all, but he was an excellent pass rusher.
Yeah. Obviously in a division with the Chiefs, when you have to play the Chiefs twice, that's not ideal. But maybe I think Denver could still come out with a wild card. I mean, it's not like Von Miller was probably going to be the difference between them challenging the Chiefs for the division or not. And I think they're still, in a position to get a wild card over the Chargers, over the Raiders. I'm just going to go with the team names because if I try to say their cities, I'm going to get them both wrong. So
no, you're getting them intentionally correct when you say that.
Right.
Yep.
So, I think Denver can still be competitive, but man, gosh, can you imagine just how tough it must be to in the start of the first week, you're 2 days away from the season opener, not for yourself, but for somebody, Chiefs and Texans. And then you lose, one of the best defensive players to a season ending injury. I mean, that's just, man, that is deflating. That's got to be deflating.
Man.
What do you think?
I wonder if this is how the Chargers felt, but times double when they lost Derwin James. Because if you're the Chargers, it's like that's really frustrating to your secondary, but you still got Chris Harris Jr. I mean, you still got a good back line. And I mean, Denver's not going to be left helpless, like you said, Jared, but that is brutal to me. If you're losing arguably the best defensive player in football to a season-ending injury. Denver's going to be good, but they're not going to be nearly as good as they could be, I think.
Well, what does it mean for fantasy? Because I feel like losing Chubb actually increases the odds of their team being an extremely profitable team for fantasy. You get more passes. You're going to get more coming from behind. You're going to get a lot less demoralized defenses, right? I mean, Chubb and if Chubb's coming back, that'll be good for them. But Vaughn was great at demoralizing the other teams by right at that moment when they thought they were getting a little momentum, he'd sack the quarterback. So it may mean a lot of shootout, at least more shootout potential in matchups like the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't know. I was looking to see the playoff matchups. They've got the fantasy playoff matchups. They've got Buffalo in week 15. depending on what the Bills situation looks like. If that's still messy because Allen Vulture's touchdowns, and then I'm sure we'll know obviously by then what the landscape looks like with Singletary and Moss, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot more of a real world impact than I think it's going to be fantasy impact. Except if like you were, going to take, like you didn't take a defense and you thought like, oh, I think Denver's going to be surprisingly good. Well,
I did look at them. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe
not so much now.
Yeah.
I did look up that trade real quick, and it, I see. I do the opposite of you. You don't like package deals. I love package deals. Anytime I can package like a handful of players together for a better player, I'll do that because I figure I'm going to fill those, open bench spots with waiver wire pickups and stuff. So this was a $50 league, and I guess it was one where I drafted. I think it was one where I drafted Kyler, Deshaun, and Dak, and so I packaged Deshaun, Tyler Lockett, and DeAndre Swift, and got Godwin. So after, looks like between, I mean, value wise, Godwin goes for like 25 plus, usually at least 25. I mean, Tyler Lockett's a $10 buy or so. Swift now is going for nothing.
$0. Yeah.
And Deshaun's maybe $7 or $8. So it's a pretty good,
not bad,
pretty good swap. So
I mean, it's really going to depend on how Goodwin does. I am worried about that team. I really am. I heard somebody who I respect, I can't remember who it was, and just said, look, I know that Brady is the best there ever was, but he has a lot to learn, and it's not just about him. His teammates have to learn a lot. And he said, when you look, you go to, I'm sure there's been a point, because this is a football player. He's like, when you go down the list, you just kind of look at it like, oh, got a lot to go before we can really master this. And Brady is somebody who likes to master those lists. Like, we got that done. We're good. We're solid. So it may be that they dominate, but if they do, it'll probably not be the first couple of games.
Yeah. And I don't like most of those guys at their average draft position or their price value in a auction league. Like Mike Evans, I think I have Mike Evans in a couple of leagues. One, I traded Melvin Gordon for him because I needed a wide receiver, and I think that's a decent trade.
It's a fair trade, yeah.
I think it's fair. And then another one, actually that one that I was just talking about that I just drafted most recently, he went for $16, So, a lot of guys from the fifth round wide receivers go for about $16 or so. So I just couldn't pass up the value, but I don't have a lot of stock in him or Godwin. I think I have a couple shares, maybe 3 at most, out of all my teams, because I feel like you are buying high on them off a season where Jameis was just constantly throwing because he was also throwing interceptions. And so, the game script just worked out for him. So you've added in Gronkowski, you've added in a better running back, you've added, a game script that's going to change. So I think they may disappoint a little bit, but I think they'll still be solid, but it might, they just may not be better than a Calvin Ridley or a DJ Chark or somebody like that.
We can get a lot cheaper. Sorry, Ryan N.
Yeah.
But I tend to agree. How do you feel, AJ?
About Godwin and Evans?
Yeah, just all the bugs.
In particular, but the
bugs too. I like Brady as an upside backup quarterback pick. I think especially later in the years, things start getting figured out with their team. I think I like him as kind of like a stash, especially if you have a quarterback with a later bye week. I kind of like him, especially. And also if you're even going with someone like I try to go in a lot of my drafts, I try to go Stafford as my quarterback and then either Roethlisberger for home games or Brady for the upside pick as my backup. I try to go with one of them. And I like Brady as a later season play. Running backs, I don't know what to think anymore. And then I like Godwin a lot. And Evans I've been flip-flopping on, but I like Godwin as a number one, but I said this at the beginning of the year when they got Brady. I'm worried that the their Bucks as a team are going to be too efficient for fantasy owners' own good, and the ball is going to be spread around too much that no one really explodes. That's my one worry with Tampa.
More W's, less fantasy gold.
There you go.
Yeah,
that could be. Somebody was saying today in my draft they thought that OJ Howard was going to be the key, the Hernandez to the Gronk, and that could be. I've been watching a lot of YouTube behind the scenes. For some reason, it got, you know how you watch a video and then it gets in your feed and you're like, oh, I'll watch another one. And they have like a serial where it's kind of behind the scenes with the Buccaneers, and they like Brait a lot. Now it could just be the writing or the scripting, but Brait is constantly, he seems like he's in the clique, whereas I haven't seen much OJ Howard. I don't even, I was like, OJ Howard's still on the team? Oh, right on. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, I know Winston liked Brait a lot.
Yeah.
Or Bruce Arians did and put him in those situations for Winston to throw to him. But I think really it kind of predated him. So it's hard to say, OJ Howard, we had a few years or a couple years at least where it's like, oh, this is going to be OJ Howard's going to break out, and just didn't happen. So, it could end up being a messy tight end. Like not only just messy for fantasy purposes in general in Tampa, but like even messy specifically at tight end, where maybe Gronk doesn't want to be out there all the time. Maybe he just wants to be like a red zone guy and be, in on certain plays and packages. And so you could have all three of them involved and just completely, destroy the value for that position in Tampa. Fantasy value.
I have Gronk more out of necessity than anything as a starting running back in a deeper 12-team league. And I was mad because I think someone took Gesicki like right before I wanted him or something. But it's interesting because they're both listed as week 1 starters, both Gronk and OJ together.
Hernandez Gronk.
Interesting to me. And I'm not sure how that's going to play out. And I don't even know what's going to happen with Braid at this point. I mean, I've got Gronk in my starting lineup. I'm not expecting big things from him week 1. But if he blows up because he's been Brady's target for a long time, I'm not going to say I'm that surprised.
Okay. Well, have you guys seen any other news? I'm looking at the news, and there's something about Texans wide receiver Brandon Cooks did not practice today due to quad injuries.
I saw that, yeah.
That's a little alarming, although it just seems like everybody's getting these quad and what have you injuries. But as we get closer to time starting, the NFL, game time, it does get a little more. I was looking at Brandon Cooks as somebody we're going to talk about as we talked about the SleeperWire or waiver wire. That could have been somebody to pick up, but I don't know. Not for week 1. What do you guys think? Did you guys have any interest in Brandon Cooks? Do you guys have any on any of your teams or?
I think I have him on one team because I paid $1 for him, and I was like almost out of money in an auction draft, and I'm just like, all right, I'll put him up for $1. If somebody wants to bid more, that's fine. If not, I'll take him. It's like with the Texans, they have like 3 wide receiver 3s.
Yep.
Like it's like Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, and Kenny Stills are all like
and Randall Cobb.
I keep forgetting about Randall Cobb too. Yeah, 4 wide receiver 3s.
Yeah.
man, that's like, I don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, Will Fuller probably has the talent to be more of a number 2 guy, but I don't know how any of that's going to play out.
Yeah, and I don't like any of them week 1 against Kansas City, against a defense that good, and especially watching how in 3 quarters Kansas City dismantled all of the Houston Texans' hopes of upsetting them in the playoffs last year. Yeah. I have Brandon Cooks on one team out of necessity just for wide receiver depth more than anything on my bench, but I'm playing someone this week who has Randall Cobb starting as his flex spot, so I'm a little excited about that. I'm not gonna lie.
Randall Cobb in his flex spot.
It is Cademan in our listener league, so I'm very interested to see how that's gonna play out.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, what was the drop we used to do? I was going to make one, but I couldn't remember what we used to do. Something. AJ Herschel, the kid. Do you remember what we used to? It was something like what was it? The SleeperWire. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Something like that.
Okay. All right.
It was something like that. We need to go back and dig all those.
Yeah, I know.
Out of the recycle bin. Yeah.
So, SleeperWire is something that we started when we started way back is looking for sleepers that are on the waiver wire, people that we could pick up that maybe try to predict injuries, not predict injuries, obviously, but try to anticipate things that may happen, that picking up somebody may be good. A lot of times I'd go and pick up a what is it called? A handcuff of some major running back, just because in the off chance that they got injured. I mean, this is the NFL. Everybody gets injured. So were there any on the SleeperWire? Were there any names on the waiver wire that you're going through and you're thinking, and this is not just what somebody you're going to pick up, but maybe if you had the spot to pick them up, you would love to have them on your bench before the first game of the NFL.
So you go ahead. You look like you got one, AJ.
I mean, there's not really much for me, being that it's week 1. So okay, a lot of the times,
totally wrong with what I just said.
Okay. I mean, the closest thing probably might be like Hunter Renfrow or something. He's only owned in 19% of leagues. Maybe he gets a connection with Carr, but the Raiders are such a mystery to me in week 1. I don't know what's going to happen there. Also, Carlos Hyde is only rostered in 21% of leagues, and if I'm a Carson owner, which I am in a league, I don't understand why they don't have him. Zeke owners get Pollard. Cook owners get Madison. Kamara owners gets Latavius Murray. It's a way of life. You get the handcuff. And I mean, Carson has never been that injury prone, but 2 straight injuries late in the season doesn't bode good things in my mind. And I like Hyde as a backup. He's eerily consistent at 8 points. Maybe he does better in a Seattle offense that works better than the offenses he's previously been in. So Hyde's probably the biggest one, but I'm not really expecting anyone on the waiver wire to break out this right now. But I'll go Renfrow and Hyde.
One guy that I really like for week 1 for a couple of reasons, but is Darrell Williams in Kansas City, because they released DeAndre Washington. Apparently Darrell Williams, seems to be the clear-cut number 2 running back, and some people think that he could have sort of a split with CEH for that first game. It's at home. There's a lot of hype. He's a better pass blocker. Again, he's free. He's on, let's see, what percentage owned? He's 26% rostered.
He's everywhere. Yeah.
He's out there a lot. And what if, it's worth it for the simple reason that what if, CEH isn't going to be a guy who gets, 65, 70% of the touches. What if he gets 55, 60%? What if Darrell Williams gets 40, 45% in that Kansas City offense?
Yeah.
That is worth having on your roster. And
that's really good.
The other thing, too, is that it's a Thursday night game. You can have him on your bench. You don't even have to play him unless you're desperate. You have him on your bench, and then if he does nothing, if he gets hardly any touches, then you just drop him and you pick someone else up for Sunday. So I like
both of those are the quintessential sleeper wires. Good. Yes. Especially Darrell Williams, since you can drop him. Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Ben says, yes, glad caught you guys live again. Glad to catch you live, Ben. Thanks for coming on. Drew Vano says,
what's up?
Thanks for tuning in, Drew. Man. Oh, he's a Bulls fan.
I like that. I like that.
Chicago dude. Devin Singletary, real quick, guys. Let's get Drew in here. Devin Singletary or James White at flex? This is a big question since a lot of people have completely lost faith in Devin Singletary, apparently.
Yeah.
He has dropped to like the 10th round. I couldn't believe it. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's tough to know. But I mean, you think about the fact that Josh Allen was already vulturing a lot of stuff, and I think will continue to do that. Zach Moss is a younger Frank Gore type, and he's probably going to continue to do that. And then people are afraid that Moss could even be mixed in a good bit on earlier downs and in situations in the middle of the field. So it's hard to know, but I don't know. I think I would go Singletary because both of them have good matchups. James White has the Dolphins. Devin Singletary has the Jets. But I think I would probably still go with Singletary because there's still unknowns in New England with Cam. And, obviously he likes to dump off to his running back, so I'm not really worried about James White. But I would just by a hair go Singletary over James White because I think there's opportunity for him to, he could still score by breaking a couple of big plays. So
interesting. Well, Ben says there are several wide receivers he'd play over those two RBs. What do you think, AJ?
I love James White. I'm going to get that out of the way first of all. He has carried me to championships before. But in this case, week 1, I might be more willing to go Singletary. And I know people are hyping up Moss, but let's not forget Devin is now an established part in the offense who's been there for 2 years. And I'm more inclined, and just the Patriots, I don't know what they're going to look like week 1, which I know isn't the most brilliant argument on earth. And I like James White. He could be good for Cam. And everyone on New England this week is an upside pick to me. I would probably go Devin Singletary because I know he's established. At least I know how the Bills offense is probably going to play this year. I would go Devin, but it's very close because I love James White. But James White probably max is going to get you 10. Devin Singletary, if he gets a touchdown, could get you 17. So I would probably go Devin.
Interesting. I think I'd go Devin too. It feels to me like the game plan could be anything in with the Patriots. Now they both you guys brought up all the salient points. That's one of the. However, and he says it's PPR, by the way.
Yep.
Ooh, that changes a little bit. Might rather have White, but the thing is that say what you will, Devin Singletary is, like you said, established in the offense, and I don't know, man. He's better skilled and less a chance. He's got less of a chance of sharing than White. I know there's all the other, there is Josh and there about this. I mean, these are points that you guys made. I'm curious, would you guys play Djax over Devin Singletary?
No.
No, no, I'm trying to think if there was any situation like even if you were chasing points or something. Nah, no. I mean, I like him as a DFS play, or if you are desperate for a wide receiver 3 or something. But nah, not over Singletary.
Well, I'm just curious. Maybe Ben can throw into the comment section what wide receivers you would play, because I'm looking at my wide receivers and I don't think there are many. I wouldn't play N'Keal Harry, Bourne. I wouldn't play Lazard, Lazard, whatever. I wouldn't play. Now, would you play Pittman?
No,
not week 1. See, like that's the thing. Week 1, at least primarily week 1, I go for less upside picks and more security picks week 1.
Right. I agree.
Smart. Would you play Mecole Hardman
over
Singletary?
Are we still talking
Singletary.
over?
Yeah, Singletary or White? No, really.
Love Mecole. I'm a Georgia fan, but not this week. Not week 1.
Interesting. Yeah, there aren't very many wide receivers. There aren't very many wide receivers that are on my bench, I'll say. Now, there are a couple, but they're already starting. And I'm playing in several leagues where I need 3 wide receivers. So I don't have a lot of wide receivers on my bench.
I think it's just tough a lot of times to play a receiver over a running back. Like even in a running back where it's a split backfield but if it's a split backfield against a bad opponent, and you can still kind of count on some points, it just feels shakier at wide receiver where you don't know if that guy is going to be, featured or not, so
it's I'd say a round of Devin Singletary.
Yep.
With a caveat that Ben would play some wide receivers. Oh, you're welcome, Drew. Okay, let's get back to the sleeper wire. I want to ask you guys what you think about picking up a little Paris Campbell off the waiver wire. I have a feeling he is, I forget what he's owned. He's only 21% rostered. So he's out there a lot of leagues. I'm not sure whether or not to pick him up, but I do feel like he could have a huge role. I mean, he's healthy now. He could have a huge role in that highly efficient and highly, I would say, very powerful offense of the Colts. What do you guys think? Would he be worth putting on your roster to see what happens?
Depends on the size of the league for me.
10-team league.
No, it's just too. Besides Ty and those running backs, like, if you need a backup tight end, I think Doyle's okay. If you've got like a good starter tight end, I don't know, like who's going to get more balls, Michael Pittman or Paris Campbell? Michael Pittman's probably going to get the red zone opportunities. I think I think like Paris Campbell can be like a great real world player for the Colts, unless Ty goes down, which isn't entirely possible because he's always playing banged up. It's not that he really misses a lot of time; it's just that he's playing banged up. If he goes down and it's Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell could have a big year.
So 10-team league for me, no, but this is primarily because I know how I draft, which is running back early, wide receiver, like running back 1 through 4 typically, wide receiver 5 through 8 typically. I want to get like a majority of either of those, maybe throwing a quarterback in 8, maybe throwing a tight end in round 1 through 4. And that's primarily because I feel like I can get really good value guys later. Diggs, Parker, Boyd, AJ Green is a bench stash. I feel like there's wide receiver guys that I'd rather have on my bench. And this isn't anything to Paris Campbell, but I think I had him and Zach Pascal on one of my 12-team leagues last year, and it was just a mess, especially later in the year. And I know they've got Rivers now, but now you're telling me with the two of them front and center, neither of them could retain the number one. Now you add Ty back, and you add Michael Pittman, and you have Nyheim Hines, the wide receiving back, because you also have Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. That's too many mouths to feed for me to get a 2-3 wide receiver and a balanced, probably run first offense. So
Right.
I think he's a watch list type guy for me, but he's not a stash type guy for me right now.
I think he'd be top 20 by the end of the year. Just putting that out there.
Okay.
Now-
If Ty gets hurt, not if
T.Y.'s
Ty.
out of the league. I promise you, T.Y. will be out of the league by the end of the season. One more.
Is that
And
a
then I
threat?
want to hear from you guys. Huh?
I said, is that a threat?
No, I foresaw it. I'm sorry, T.Y. He gets paid, though, so that's good. So we talked about this player a little bit. Jalen Reagor, you talked about Jared. You said everybody's going out and dropping him, and I've seen him. What is he owned? I think he's owned in only 31% of leagues. This guy could be a real sleeper wire candidate in the sense that you go out, you pick him up, as soon as he gets that O designation, put him on the IR.
Right. Yeah. In all the leagues where I have Darrell Williams, like if Darrell Williams doesn't do anything Thursday night, what I'm going to go do is then drop him for Jalen Reagor, stick Reagor in IR, and then pick up another player.
I think it's
There you
super
go.
smart. Yeah. Okay, what about you guys? Have any more before, we want to wrap up within an hour, but we still got about 15 more minutes, so let's talk a little bit more. What do you got? Oh, by the way, before you said, Ben Fadir said that the wide receivers he'd play over, I think it was James White and
Singletary.
Devin Singletary. Anthony Miller, Sammy Watkins, and Larry Fitzgerald.
Ben is a risk taker there.
he might have you beat, Jude.
He's got me beat on this one. Maybe Anthony Miller. But Larry Fitzgerald, that is somebody who we may want to take a look at. I don't know.
I think Fitzgerald interests me because he was so great for years, and then later he kind of slipped off, partially because of the Cardinals, partially because of his age. But I wouldn't play him week one for sure. And I can't remember Arizona. Okay, yeah, that seals it. Arizona's playing San Francisco, so
Yeah.
not this week. Not this week. Miller, as a Chicago fan, he did have flourishes last year, but he also had games where he would get one catch. So he's a bench stash for me. Miller is a bench stash. Watkins is probably a watch list. Fitzgerald is a watch list for me at this point under Watkins. Miller, I wouldn't start any of them this week though.
So I'll give one more sleeper wire pick. This has really got to be, again, this guy's going to be more for DFS, and he's going to be if you're thin at quarterback and your quarterback has a really bad matchup. So this guy against the team that he's playing in week one, last year in the two games against them, he threw for 511 yards and 6 touchdowns. The year before, he only played them once because he was hurt the other game. But in that one game in 2018, he threw for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns. And this player is the great Mitch Trubisky.
I knew it. I knew it.
Against the Lions. They're starting out against the Lions again, and he does well. If he could just play the Lions every week, Mitch Trubisky would be an elite quarterback. So I like him as a DFS play. I'm playing him in DFS leagues. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, or if you're in a league where you're thin at quarterback, maybe you waited on taking an elite quarterback, and your guy doesn't have that great of a matchup in week 1. I think Mitch Trubisky might be worth a play. Although it is a little bit scary to me that it's week 1 because I don't know. I think back to a couple of years ago when they played the Packers in week 1, and it was just a disaster for him.
Sure
but
that wasn't last year.
I heard he already had his bags packed, and he was 1 foot out the door. He thought he was. No,
let's see if it was last year. I don't remember. Maybe it was. It was last year actually.
Yep. That was the most boring game in the history of football.
Those first 2 games, he was just brutal.
Well, I think it's something to watch though, and if you are in need of a quarterback, if you are streaming quarterbacks, I think that's an excellent and definitely DFS. And I think going forward, we should. I'm going to create a DraftKings league. Look for us if you want to see more DraftKings stuff. Follow us on Facebook. Look for Roto Hackers on Facebook. Look for our page. And you'll see some more. We might even post some. If I see a good conversation between 3 of us about it, I'll post it up there. But I'll also post a link for a DraftKings competition. So where we all can play against each other if we want to. Small, 10 person DraftKings.
Well, speaking of, and I don't know if other people have noticed it this year, but you have the option in the season-long leagues to challenge your opponent to a cash bet each week. Some clown that I'm playing in week 1 already challenged me. I've got to decide if I want to take this. It's a $20 league, so the challenge for week 1 is more than the buy-in for the league. So I've got to decide if I want to do this or not based on
you have what sounds like you have to decide whether you have the courage to do it or not. There might be some relish involved.
Well, the thing about it is I think logically I don't have this process where I'm trying to think back to what the term is, but it's like, processing your feelings into players' stats and physicality of the football, or I don't know. It's some like long drawn out explanation about how this analyst that I saw made his judgment calls. So I do have a little bit of a different approach to it. Yeah, that's for sure true. Yeah.
Lay on me.
I've had that banner up for a month.
He'll remain nameless. This mystery opponent will remain nameless. Yeah.
Yes. Nameless.
Oh, really quick though, before we move on, because I know we've got comments. There was one thing I want to say real quick. When Jared brought up sneaky play, 2-quarterback or DFS, this guy's owned in 29% of leagues, and he might not do so hot game 1, but he's playing the worst defense in the league. The Colts get Jacksonville, and they have Phillip Rivers, and I don't know how he's going to look week 1, but I have him stashed in a couple leagues as my backup because. Hey, there's a definite possibility we see last year's Phillip Rivers, but he's got a good offensive line, a better wide receiver core, and great running backs now. So that could also be a sneaky play, I think, there, especially in deeper leagues.
I'm absolutely with you. I'm surprised I didn't take him for my league.
He's 29% owned.
I know. He's on the wires. You can go ahead and get him. Maybe that's why I didn't take him. I think that's why I didn't take him. I think Jared and I agree with you 100%. I think he's going to be great this year. Just period.
Also,
Drew Vano says, "What
Ooh.
are you guys' thoughts on Hollywood Brown for the season?" So, I am a huge truther. That's an overused term. I have a lot of Hollywood Brown on my teams. I looked and I have 17 teams this year. I have probably on half of those teams I have Hollywood Brown. I have him starting on half of that half. So I have started taking him as a starting option because I feel like in order to I think the game plan for the Ravens is going to change. They're playing the Browns. I think it's not going to be a shut down easy game. I think there's going to be a lot of throwing. And I do think that Lamar's going to have to throw quite a bit more this year. And his favorite target is Hollywood Brown. I believe Hollywood Brown's going to be better than AJ Brown.
Ooh.
Wow, that certainly is a
Hot takes! Hot takes! That's way too hot.
Not way too hot. That's the perfect hotness.
I think it's possible. I actually think that's possible. But I don't know. Last year he was just like it was just so game script dependent, where the first 2 weeks he was just killing it. He had 147 yards and 2 touchdowns in the season opener against Miami. 13 targets, 8 receptions, 86 yards in week 2, and then nothing for a month.
Yeah.
And then he had 4 receptions for 80 and a touchdown against Cincinnati, and then really not much of anything for nearly 2 months after that. Now he did have a game where he caught 5 balls for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns, were big against the Rams. But apart from that, he was getting 2 or 3 targets a game pretty routinely up until the playoffs against the Titans. So I think he's going to take a step forward. I think you're right. I think they will pass more. But I think you're still going to have a good bit of boom or bust with him. And I just don't like, unless I'm desperate and chasing points, and just want to take a shot at it, I don't like boom or bust players.
Yeah, same. I had Hollywood first few weeks and it was beautiful. And then after that, it just plummeted so far. And the interesting thing last year, Judah Booty, you say he's his favorite target. I vehemently disagree. Mark Andrews is his favorite target, especially when we're talking about goal line targets. And last year, Hollywood had over 7 targets 4 times. 3 of those were in the first 4 weeks. And that's not that doesn't encourage me. I do think he's going to be better this year. I like him as maybe a flex play week 1 right now. But later in the season, I think he's going to do better. I think he's going to improve as the season goes on, barring injury. His stats last year worry me, but I think he'll be good. That's what I'll say. I think he'll be good. Last year, he was very inconsistent and tailed off at the end of the year. I think he'll be solid and consistent. Good flex play for the year.
No, he's going to be amazing this year.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on. Do you guys have any more waiver wire? Sleeper wire?
I think that's pretty much it for me on the waiver wire. Sleeper wire.
Pretty much exhausted mine.
Yeah. Speaking of exhausted, it's about time for us to get to bed. Well, me. I don't know about you guys. You can do whatever you want. But Ben does bring up a question. Tuesdays and Saturdays are your normal streaming days? Are you going to change the streaming days during the season? I think these are pretty much our streaming days. We may add 1 or 2. I was thinking maybe a Friday streaming day to talk exclusively about DFS, but that probably will be more sporadic than anything else.
Yeah, because it's Tuesdays. Tuesdays for waiver wire, Saturdays for the last few stardom situms, so we get past all the injuries and everything.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good schedule because I mean, Monday night. I mean, I guess if there was a schedule conflict and we needed to do it Monday night or something, but you still got Monday night games going on. Then so
That's true.
So I think Tuesday and Saturday are
pretty sweet times
for ideal.
Football. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the football. Who is it? The I forget what their names are, but they do. Oh, it's the football guys. They do their stream on Thursday night, and they use StreamYard like us. That's where I got the idea. So I'll be honest. So if you're looking for a similar format and want a little bit more talk, Thursday nights tune into the Football Guys TV. And they have a lot of good analysis there. So, anything else, guys? Or is it see you on Saturday?
I've put in a couple of waiver wire claims in 2 of my leagues for I'm a little bit hesitant on this. I've got the 3rd waiver priority, so it's not like at the end of week 1 I'm going to get my choice of the player I want to pick up. I'm not in the first spot or not even in the second spot. But in a couple of my leagues, people have dropped Sony Michel. And that's kind of a tough spot because, Damian Harris is going to be out for a few weeks. They start out against the Dolphins, so that's a pretty good matchup. So sort of debating, do I want to use my number 3? It's just coincidentally number 3 waiver priority in both those leagues on Sony Michel. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I definitely would.
Solid.
Yeah.
I like him. I mean,
I think it's worth
it, so you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I think it's worth 3. If I was at 1, probably not. 2 would be iffy, but at 3, if I'm at 1, I like being able to pick up, my choice of guy in week 1 or week 2 or whatever, if I don't want to burn it in week 1. But by the time you get down to 3, that's a little bit, if there's a couple of star players, they're going to be gone. So
yeah, I had to check to see if any of my teams had him on the waiver wire. Unfortunately, do not. I would do it. Oh, Jonathan Buster says, "Don't do it. It's a trap."
Is that an Admiral Akbar reference? I appreciate it.
Pretty sure it is. Although Ben Traeger on CBS he's a CBS analyst. He says he has a term for running backs that don't catch any passes, and you have to rely solely on yards. He calls them trap backs. So maybe that's a double entendre. Because Sony is a trap back.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm just reading again his little orange note bubble where it says that ESPN's Mike Rice writes that the Patriots figured to ease Sony Michel into the mix. So and that's a possibility. It's entirely possible it could be we're just going to go with Rex Burkhead and James White. And then maybe that negates what we said about Devin Singletary over James White. It's just, week one is just so, it's a guessing game every week, but when you're coming off of, 8 months without football or so,
yeah. It's like trying to play the most difficult version of Sudoku, where it just gives you one number and you have to figure it out.
I've never played, but that sounds right.
Yeah, it does. It sounds right. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I
bet you could get Sexy Rexy on your waiver wire.
Oh, absolutely. He is probably 2% owned.
I think that would be.
He's 1% owned, actually.
1% owned. I'm gonna go and get him. I have him on my Dynasty League. I think he could easily. Now, if Sony was out there, I'd get Sony. But since I can't get Sony and I can't get James White, may be interesting, at least in a couple leagues where I have a spot, I'd rather have him. Would you rather have him than Chris Thompson? I would for week 1.
Wait, Rex versus Chris Thompson?
Yeah.
Yeah, just from the standpoint of,
I'm just talking about week 1.
yeah, just week 1 only. I would, just because they're playing the Dolphins at home, and it could, like Belichick sometimes randomly just rides a running back. You remember the game several years ago with, oh gosh, who was the guy's name that came in for Fournette? Fournette was hurt or something, and the guy had like 5 touchdowns against the Colts. It could be like that kind of situation for like Rex Burkhead. He could just have something crazy. Whereas I think game script is going to go Chris Thompson's way against the Colts. I think he's going to be in there and be involved a lot. But is he going to really blow up? I'd say probably not. Could Rex Burkhead, if like Sony Michel's still kind of hurt and they decide they just want to run it up on the Dolphins? Yeah, Rex Burkhead could have 4 touchdowns, So, yeah, I agree with you.
I think, and then you flip him. You could trade him for who? You could probably get somebody good from. You could probably get. I bet you could get, like, if somebody's holding on to Rager and they're a little bit savvy, you could get a Rager. You could, just trade him for somebody you probably could have gotten off the waiver wire anyways. But you need that little extra. Hey, you just got 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get much more than that, because I think most people are going to. Like, most fantasy owners are going to recognize like blatantly obvious fool's gold, but like you said, you could probably get him for someone else that could just as easily be on the waiver wire. Yeah. So
See, this is one of the things that I call now after last year. I called it the Sammy Watkins syndrome when he put up 45 points in week 1 last year. The Watkinsing of 2019 in one game, and everyone burned every league. There was someone who burned their waiver priority on Sammy Watkins. I'm telling you. That could be Rex Burkhead.
Oh yeah,
or it could be Sammy Watkins again. Ben might be on something.
It could be Sammy Watkins again. Yeah,
he loves those week 1 burners. Yeah,
but just to reiterate what we've said, tomorrow is our last day.
Yeah,
without NFL football until February or so.
Yes.
I should do something with my wife and kids tomorrow. Because I'm not going to see them again.
And say goodbye to them.
Say
goodbye
to Daddy until February.
I was thinking about that this Sunday. I was like, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh yeah, we probably should do something, because next Sunday I'm probably not going to be around.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of next Sunday, but this coming Sunday.
Yeah. It's this week. That's exciting.
It's fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
We got a question in here, by the way, that we had missed from our man Drew. He asked, "You guys believe the hype with Scotty Miller?"
I don't know that I know Scotty Miller.
Is he the Tampa guy? Or
yes,
okay.
Yes, that is him.
Tampa running back,
wide receiver.
No, I'm having trouble with Evans and
is the hype. I am just guessing. I have not even heard any of this hype. This must be like a Tampa Bay Bucks like circle that like Drew
we need
and
Ryan in here.
Drew and Ryan know about or something. I am guessing, but I'm just gonna guess here that the hype around Scotty Miller is that people are like, oh, he's gonna be Brady's Edelman in Tampa or Brady's Wes Welker. That is just a guess based on the fact that I have not heard anything else. Obviously, he's not going to challenge Godwin or Mike Evans. Yeah. But how close am I, Drew? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I just looked it up, and the first thing that came up was his profile on NFL.com, but I mean, that's normal. There's one article. Apparently, Brady said some really good things about him in practice. Apparently he caught like 4 catches on a drive or whatever, and Brady said he's really trustworthy and dependable, which if you know Brady, that's kind of rare for him to compliment you that much. So I think it's interesting. And I mean, I'm the guy who puts kickers on his watch list. So I think it's interesting. I would put him on a watch list. I think this is one of those guys you watch and see what happens. And maybe this is one of those sneaky plays later in the year. He gradually, gets more points every week, and then maybe Godwin goes down or something. I think he's interesting.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, we went through the depth chart for running backs, but we didn't do it for wide receivers. And this would be one. I mean, look, for running backs, you're already looking at the third string being important. What's his name? Robinson. I remember when we went through it, we went through the Jacksonville depth chart.
We never did do the NFC.
Yeah, we did.
We ended up doing it. Yeah, I subbed in for you that time.
Good. Okay.
But for Jacksonville, we did it, and I remember talking about. We looked at Robinson. Was like, "Do you know anything about this guy?" I don't think we. But here we are. He's going to be the starter. What's his? Is it Robinson?
James Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah, James Robinson.
Feels like the most generic backup name, that you could have.
Yeah.
Like every team's third running back is named James Robinson.
Actually, speaking of Jacksonville, I probably should have said that as one of the interesting sleeper wire. Chris Conley really interests me, and I know I said that last week, I think too.
Yeah. I considered talking about him too.
Yeah, he's kind of a sneakier guy, I think, and especially if teams end up doubling Chark, if he breaks out early in the year, maybe Conley breaks out later. He's one of their team captains. I think this is like his 3rd or 4th year with the Jacksonville organization. He's interesting.
Yeah, I thought about bringing him up. I think there are a lot of slot players like him and Gage for the Falcons. Yeah. That could end up being, if you need somebody in a pinch, could easily have 10 catches in 1 week just randomly. So, I mean, they are solid guys that could get catches. Keep an eye on that. The good call bringing those guys up. We did have one last. I wanted to save this for the end. Thomas H. with his snide remarks, but also introspective. So on Thursday night and Saturday, on Sunday, we're not going to have any Saturday games, looks like, right? Because college
doesn't look like it.
Well, the end of the year,
Maybe? Okay.
Normally like week 15, we always have some weeks 15 and 16, we have some Saturday games, but no, nothing beyond that. Yeah.
Will we see sad pandemic preseason style imitation of football? Or will we see the real deal? What do you guys think? Last thoughts before we go.
It's going to be weird without the fans, but I will be glad. Well, I should say mostly without the fans. There's like a handful, like 5-6 teams maybe that are going to have a few. It's going to be weird without the fans. I am glad though that they'll at least be in like their regular stadiums and not doing like what the NBA is doing, which I know why the NBA is doing this, and this has worked out well, but it still looks so weird for the NBA to be playing. The lighting looks so weird to me. Like,
it does.
I don't know if I talked about this with one of you guys or if it was somebody else.
Me. Yeah, with the lighting. We were talking about that. I think it was after we turned off the live and we started talking about it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. The lighting looks so weird. It looks so dark in there. It's like, you're like there for an intimate dinner in a Longhorn restaurant or something, like brighten this up.
Yeah, like they tried to light it up with candles or something. Yeah.
Yeah. It just looks so weird to me. If I wish, I think I'd be okay without the fans or like the digital fans that they're using or whatever. If it would just be like in the regular, arenas with the regular lighting, it just feels like D League to me. Like, even though I'm watching
It's the G League now, by the
or
way.
G League. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's sponsored by Gatorade now. So.
Oh, that's the reason for the change. Okay.
Nice.
So it feels like G League. Yeah. It just feels like lesser somehow. So I'm glad the NFL's not doing that. At least I don't know how it's going to feel without fans, but I'm glad they'll at least be in their stadiums.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, college football went off with them mostly without a hitch. I mean, they started off okay. Austin P beat Central Arkansas, so I mean, things can't be all bad, right?
Southern Miss's coach resigned after one game, so
that.
Yeah,
I did
what
see
was
that.
about?
that's
Southern Miss lost to South Alabama, so.
But it just seemed like pathetic and weird.
It was weird. But yeah, I think Ben's probably right about this. We're probably going to get a lot of flags on week 1. I definitely see that coming. And I think it'll be interesting to watch the more offensive teams and teams with worse defenses. I feel like those games are going to be more exciting than the others because I remember watching Bears-Packers that you brought up, Jared, game 1 last year. And as a Bears fan, I mean, it stinks because we lost. As a football fan, it was boring. It was 10-3. It was punts back and forth after like the first 10 minutes of the game. It was a snooze fest. And I'm just praying that doesn't happen week 1. But I mean, we've got exciting matchups. We got Texans, Chiefs. We've got Colts, Jaguars could be interesting. I mean, what's Sunday night this week? I think it's Cowboys, Rams. That should at least be fun. I think football's going to be fun week 1.
I think it's a lot of good matches. What were you going to say, Jared?
It just occurred to me as we were talking about all that, like, what are the Packers going to do for the Lambeau Leap now?
Oh,
they jump up there and fall. I'll say this. And I heard somebody say, who's Cam going to give the ball to?
Yeah.
Well,
Bill Belichick. He just runs over and hands it to Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving my career. I'll say this. When I watch football, it's different than all the other sports. I watch most of the other sports with no sound and usually I'm usually at Buffalo Wild Wings. But football has it's something about the commentators that is just classic. There's something about the rhythm and the getting to know the commentators are almost another team member or whatever.
Especially if it's Tony Romo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
and he's just he apparently just knows whatever anybody's gonna do anyway. So I mean,
yeah. So I think I don't know, but I agree with you guys that they're great matchups. The fans have never really been important to me, anyways. The commentators are going to be there. There's going to be piped in music. Piped in fan noise. I think it's going to be wonderful. As long as they keep the lights bright. Let's keep it bright, folks. Let's keep it real bright. Keep my spirits up here. Because it is depressing watching this NFL games. I was watching one today. It's like, oh.
Wait, which one? It's
he means the NBA games.
Okay, just checking on that.
Sorry, NBA. I was watching NBA today and thinking, oh, it just feels like a scrimmage.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it. Well, at least and the NFL games will be daytime, so they don't need.
That's true. I saw they were playing college already, right? College football.
Yeah.
And I saw a college football game today. And
UAB is back.
Yeah, it looked normal. It looked fine. It didn't even occur to me there wasn't anybody in the stands. Because basketball, you see the fans a lot more. The ball goes into there. There's a lot more energy.
Yeah,
football,
and it's so much closer to the stage too.
Yeah.
Like someone hits a 3, you hear Mike Breen yelling "bang!" Everyone goes up and you see it. Football, you actually got to pan to the crowd to figure out what's going on.
It will. The things that you do though, the going up in the Lambeau Leap, the handing the ball off, those little things. Those won't be there.
Are we just going to see someone throw a football up into the stands and just hear clunk?
That would be kind of funny. I want to see Tyreek jump up into like one of these places and like how he got like into the bowl.
Yeah,
that
the
one,
camera.
what was that?
The cameraman was it? He took the
Yeah,
cameraman
no,
spot.
he went and got the camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a wonderful weekend.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys. We got to get something where we can, show our listeners our banter because we some pretty interesting banter, and let them in on some comments. Some kind of dashboard or something. All right, guys. Well, if you have nothing else, I've got nothing else. Well, let's let the old outro,
The new outro,
the old new outro play us out. You guys have a great week. What is it? Where are we today? Tuesday?
We're Tuesday, yeah.
No, so you guys have a great rest of the week. Bye.
See ya.